Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Rose and Rubini podcast, Making Sense of This World. My name is Manas Chavla, and as always, I'm really pleased to be joined by CEO and Head of Research, Brunella Rosa. This week, we're discussing the events of last week, when Brunella and I were both at attending the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Definitely, perhaps, happening against the backdrop of one of the most geopolitically volatile years in sort of recent history, with plenty of highlight moments happening throughout the conference. The theme this year was rebuilding trust. And as we look towards a year of elections when half the human population goes to the polls, that seems particularly relevant. But during these proceedings, the WEF also released its Global Risk Report of 2024. Brunello, would you have some insight into what the WEF said were the five biggest risks facing the world in the next 2 years?
Absolutely. We were together in Davos, as you correctly said. We had a chance to meet plenty of people and get a sense of the sentiment. That sometimes has been a contrarian indicator. Let's be clear. There were plenty of optimism in Davos, and then the year came out to be a disaster. In other occasions, there were plenty of pessimism there, and then the year was okay. So it's not necessarily a always reliable leading indicator, but it definitely is an indicator, and it provides guidance on what the key policymakers around the world are looking at. And the things that happened during the Davos week are not just meetings and events and so on, but there are some publications that and the launch of some programs which we can discuss in this podcast. So the first one is, as you mentioned, the Global Risk Report, which identifies five big risks that needs to be looked at in the next couple of years. And these are extreme weather events, cyber attacks, social unrest, biodiversity loss, and geopolitical tensions. On all these fronts, of course, the WEF has called for global cooperation and I would say a coordinated approach, which is very much needed in this period. And I would say perhaps the most important feature of these events is always the fact that we try to give multilateralism yet another chance, because in this period in which there are global tensions, where there are even open conflicts, the fact that people meet to discuss and find common ground is a positive development in any case. So I would say that's the most important call for action from the WEF.
On top of that, the big theme in every aspect of the WEF this year was undoubtedly the theme of artificial intelligence. A lot of it is hype, a lot of it is a bit more than that. And the WEF launched the AI Governance Alliance, and this comes on the back of several different big AI initiatives across the Western world. Could you summarize some of the sort of recent history on what's been going on AI, what the WEF thinks about AI, and why it's important?
Absolutely. So, on the back of, let's call it this global risk report, we have identified, I would say, four main themes that we thought were particularly important in Davos. One is AI, as you correctly say, the other is climate change. Then there's political, geopolitical risk, and eventually central bank move. So starting from AI, as you suggested, um, the WEF has launched this governance alliance, which effectively means that all the stakeholders in the initiative will have to promote an ethical and responsible use of artificial intelligence in the various sectors and domains. And of course, you need lots of collaboration and coordination among the various actors. This comes on the back of the meeting at Bletchley Park that took place in November here in the UK. And that was organized by the Prime Minister himself, and was attended by most Prime Minister and presidents of various countries around the globe. And of course, soon after that, you had the vicissitude of OpenAI, where it's found that Sam Altman was first kicked out and then, say, called back. So AI, as we knew and further realized when we were in Davos, is really at the forefront of everybody's mind and and plans. In fact, there's a there's another report that the WEF published, future of jobs report, that of course is very closely related to that because it looks at the impact of technology, automation, AI, of course, but also the pandemics and so on, the labor force. So all these were, I would say, consequences um, of this development. And the report highlights that 85 million jobs might be displaced by the machines
Hmm.
by 2025. Um Optimistically, 97 million new roles may emerge, but this could be, I would say, this can take much longer than a couple of years to be shed and created.
Yeah. Uh, and then the WEF also hosted sort of several things on climate change, nature, energy, and the energy transition. I mean, that seems to be a persistent theme that's been at the WEF, but also other conferences over the last decade or so since this issue's gotten attention. Was it much of the same? Did we see anything particularly different this year, particularly given the backdrop of political risk of the last year?
It seemed a bit of a more of the same, if I may be totally honest. Most people are looking at the implementation of the Paris Agreement. The WEF launched a global resilience network, which is kind of a platform to enhance the preparedness and response capabilities of countries to natural disasters, pandemics, and so on. And these initiatives are very much welcome. But again, the point is, will the US and China find common ground to fight climate change? Because without the agreement of these two big giants, you can have as many meetings as you want, but nothing will eventually happen. It's not just US and China, of course. You've got India, you had economic powerhouses that needs to agree. But clearly, US and China, the two main actors at this stage, they need to find an agreement.
Yeah. And then whilst sort of Davos was occurring, or just before it, everyone's attentions were on the Taiwanese elections, the first major ones of this year. Anything on how that, but also other events that are coming up this year, sort of laid the background work for this conference?
Yeah, it was immediately after the Taiwanese election that we had discussed previously potentially the best result for China. So, there was not a victory by the Kuomintang. The DPP won again, but it doesn't have a majority. So, a bit of a stalemate. And for us, it's been more preservation of the status quo that given the alternative might be kind of a good result. Um, but again, this was just the appetizer. The real main course will be the US elections in November, and everything will be determined by the fact of whether Trump returns to the White House or not. So, and will be the big theme for surely 2025.
Hmm. That makes sense. Uh, and this is just one of the many sort of elections happening this year. That many people in sort of Davos aren't afraid to pontificate on. Clearly, given the last two primaries, Iowa and New Hampshire, Trump seems to be well on his way to the Republican nomination. And there's slowly less and less doubt that the ultimate battle will be between Trump and Biden. Uh, Come the 2024 election. So, as always, Brunello, much to watch, but thank you so much for your time and insight.
Thank you. Until next time.